Alright, Cyberpunk seems to have worked again. We got the computer installed when I was away on vacation, but it's still tagged out. Not sure why. Let's figure this out. Alright, usually for Cyberpunk it means this is jammed. So I'm going to grab this keyboard that they give us and enter the system menu. System menu up there. Usually the first thing that goes wrong with this is this jam. So I'm going to go to input test or output test. I'm going to click on this gun tab. And I'm going to turn each of these guns on to try and see if they actually fire. Well, that seems to be firing. Player 2 doesn't seem to be firing. Or player 1, I mean. Alright, let's fix that. Also, I noticed our projector alignment is horribly off. We'll fix that later. Alright, so fixing the jammed gun first. Just to get some extra space, I'm going to take the bench off. It's literally 2 screws. So we just take this one out. And that one out. Before you pull this away, there's one connector in here that runs a couple lights in it. So just unplug that. Then you can pull the bench out. Alright, now that we can actually access everything in here, we got to take this cover off so we can check if anything's jammed in here. We'll just move this out of the way, loosen our 2 screws. So we got one here and one over here. And then we can take that off once those are out. Now we can see in there. You're gonna need something to put these in. We just use the quarter drawer from the spot where it's sitting because we don't use that. There's no quarter slots. As you're taking these out, pay attention to any broken ones. The system should filter it out, but it does a pretty crappy job. Found another one. By the way, if you want to see the broken ones, they're in a little tray down here. Every once in a while you gotta clean this out. Alright, with all the extra ammo out of the way, we can take off this L-shaped bracket and we're going to check for jams underneath here. There's about 5 screws that hold this thing in place. I usually leave this screw last because it's the longest screw out of the bunch. With all the screws out, you can lift this off, and when you do, all of the rounds that are loaded in this tube here are going to just come rushing out of the bottom of the gun. Kind of like that. Alright, I cleaned out all the rest of the ammo, and I didn't see any in jams, but I think when I took the plate off, I might have saw 2, like a half broken one and a broken one in one of these. Like here, specifically. I'll have to go back and check the video. Alright, let's get this plate back on, fill it back up with some ammo, and see if this runs. When putting this plate back on, this particular screw hole here lines up with this clear plastic guide rail. It can wiggle around a little bit, and we've actually screwed it back in the wrong spot. Just line that up and make sure. Last one. Alright, we gotta fill this with some ammo. Yeah, it might be enough, I don't know. So, back up in my system menu, I'm gonna turn on player 1's gun. And when I pull the trigger, it should start loading this. Every once in a while the system stops because it thinks it's broken. Just reset it. And a little bit more. Just kind of knock those around. And it looks like we're firing again. All right, gun seems to be fixed. Let's close this up and then realign our projector. Dump all the rest of the ammo in here. There we go. Don't you love when you're cleaning something up and you just find random screws and pieces for stuff that you don't know where it is? No, just me? Great. Reject tray is back in place. Put our safety cover back on. Just tighten this down here. There we go. I'm going to turn on both guns just to double check them again. Player 2 is still working. And player 1's still working. Alright, let's align this projector. Alright, in the system menu, there is some projector alignment stuff that we can do. Like we can move each individual target around to get them to line up correctly. But since this is a new computer, I'm going to assume that this is all set to its default, and I'm going to do a manual adjustment on the actual projector up there. Since it's in the top and the back of the game, we're going to need a little step ladder. Right, at the back of the game, our projector's heading up here. It's actually a Velcro cover. You can just pull this off. The projector actually bounces off of a mirror and is reflected to the screens down below. A couple of screws here you can loosen to adjust this thing on its left and right axis. And then a couple of screws here that allow you to pivot it up and down. So we just kind of line this up a little bit so it's centered. And then just make sure all these are nice and tight so it doesn't move again. They might come loose over time. Alright, we got it lined up a little bit better. We'll have to go and adjust it through software in the menu. There we go, now we got the Velcro back on. Let's head to the front and see if we can adjust it the rest of the way. Let's start with the backgrounds. You click on this right here, panel. And then you can adjust each of the different stages. Let's just start with panel 1. And then you can use the arrow keys to just move this around. I might have to go and tilt that projector farther up because that's the top of my screen there, and that's not right. Alright, I've made readjustments to this. It's never going to be perfect. When we first got this game, I spent about 2 hours adjusting it, only for it to still look like crap. Okay, after an incredibly annoyingly long amount of time, I think I got everything lined up. This sucks. But I think it's lined up. Get our fabric and close this all up. Alright, exited back to the game.
Things are going crazy all around the city.
It looks like we might be okay.
To sort it out.
It's a bit of a gap, too large at the top, but it works. Alright, time to put the bench back on and be done with this. Slide this into position, and then don't forget your cable down here underneath. It goes up through this hole. Kinda need 2 hands. There we go, that's better. Put in our 2 screws that hold the bench on, and we are finished. Alright, bench is back on. Game is closed up. I just got to mark it back in order, but game should be fixed.